You're listening to the Angry Marks Podcast Network.
Welcome to Jordan Garber's World here on AngryMarks.com. You are about to listen to an interview I did with former TNA X Division champion Kazarian. Kazarian wrestled for Primo's Wrestling here on January 31st, 2015 in Winnipeg, Manitoba. And now you are about to listen to my interview with Kazarian.
I am here with none other than Kazarian. How are you doing tonight?
Good. Why are you, Mark, so angry? It's a good time to be a Mark. You don't have to be angry. Good wrestling, New Japan, WWE, NXT, Primos, Lucha Underground, Ring of Honor, all these good wrestling. Stop being so angry, Marks.
Well, that's what it's called, though. It's called Angry Marks.
Stop being angry. God. Come on, there's a lot of good wrestling out there. Let's be happy Marks. Can we switch the URL to Happy Marks?
I will actually send that to my producer. We may change it to HappyMarks.com.
Being angry.
So tell us about starting out in the business. How did it all come about?
I think like everybody else, I was obviously a diehard fan. Wrestling caught my interest when I was about 7 years old after seeing Rocky III and seeing Hulk Hogan, and then immediately after that going and renting the videotape of WrestleMania 1. How archaic is that videotape? And then seeing that, and first match was Tito Santana, and I was just hooked, just enamored, and from then on, my life revolved around wrestling. Toys, action figures, video games, tapes, watched it. I primarily, in California, got WWF, so that's what I grew up watching. Reading all the magazines and reading about NWA and AWA and Crockett stuff in Mid-South. So obviously I knew who everybody was, but the only guys I saw on TV was WWF guys, and just made a decision as a kid, like, this is what I want to do. I want to be a wrestler. When we're kids, we dream big. I just really never grew out of it, man. Like, after high school, all my buddies and friends were going to college and joining the military, and back in my mind, I really want to be a wrestler. I'm really small at the time, but, I got a job, saved up some money, tried to put on a little bit of size, got myself in shape. Back then, internet was still fairly new, so I just researched schools and sent away for books and talked to people and met legends such as Bret Hart and different people, and decided Kowalski School was the place for me to go.
And what's some of the most valuable things that you learned from that school, since he's such a great legend in this business?
Well, first of all, I wouldn't be talking to you right now if it wasn't for him. I owe my whole career to him. The reason I went to that school, which was in Massachusetts, and I lived in California at the time, because I wanted to be trained by the best, and I wanted to be trained by a legend. And Killer Kowalski's name is, I don't want to say it's a household name, but it's synonymous with pro wrestling. So getting there, and, I was fortunate enough to get a lot of the in-ring training. Killer was, Walter is his real name, was up in his 70s at that time. But he was still getting in the ring. He was very, very generous to me. Realized I traveled 3,000 miles to be there. And really kind of took me in. I remember he gave me a ride back to my motel after my first week, and he pulled me aside and he said, you take really good bumps. You have something. And that meant the world to me, scared 19-year-old kid. But and then from then on, we had four practices a week, and I didn't really have any friends up there. And so I would ride to and from class with Walter. He'd come pick me up, and we'd get to class a couple hours early. So, I got the benefit of getting in the ring with him, just him one-on-one, which was invaluable, twice on weekends. But what I learned up there, most importantly, is fundamentals, which I think is lacking in today's younger generation. There's still some guys teaching really good fundamentals, guys like Lance Storm and the Dudleys, and just repetition, and just learning the fundamentals and how to work before learning how to do flashy moves and all that. Just learning the fundamentals of the business is invaluable.
Tell us about coming to TNA. How did you get the call, and how did you become such a big name there? Before becoming a big name there, how did it all begin for you?
Well, I was on an overseas tour in Europe. I was working for 01 in Japan at the time, and I did a tour with them, and right after that, I had a 2 or 3 week tour of Europe, and it was put on by this promotion called WWA, ran by Andrew McManus, and Scott D'Amore was one of the agents there, and he was working for TNA at the time, and Jeremy Barash and Jeff Jarrett came in, and Disco Inferno, and all those guys were TNA, and this is when TNA was in its beginning stages. So we did the tour, and they all kind of said, how long have you been working, and had that talk, and I'd known Scott D'Amore a little bit before that, and the first time that those guys saw me work, so after that tour ended, about a month later I got a call, asking if I wanted to come in, from Scott D'Amore, asking if I wanted to come to TNA for a tryout. Oddly enough, I had a tryout with Ring of Honor and WWE the weekend, and then Wednesday I had a TNA tryout. So, and then I did my match at TNA as a 6-man tag. Got home, got travel for the next week, came back, and got travel for the next week, came back, and was like, I guess I got hired. And then a few weeks later, I got a contract, and that's how it started, man. And about just, you know what, I think, you know, a handful of us that were there in the beginning, like the Amazing Reds and Low Keys and Jerry Lynn's, Christopher Daniels, AJ Styles, Chris Sabin, guys like that, I think we really put in the work to build, you know, what is today the X Division. And I think at that time it was something really new, really cool that fans really got behind. That basically defined what TNA was. So I think out of all those group of guys really created an identity for themselves as TNA X Division guys, and that really helped TNA get to another level, I think.
You brought up having the WWE tryout and the TNA tryouts close to the same time. Obviously, people dream as a kid of getting that WWE tryout. Yep. How did you feel when you got that call?
Well, I mean, I'd had tryouts before that. I had, you know, my first time I went up there, I think was 99 or 2000. I used to just go up and do dark matches anytime they were in Los Angeles or Anaheim or even up to like San Jose. I was working for a promotion called UPW, which was basically a developmental system at the time for WWF. And I had a good rapport with all the guys up there. You know, it was a lot different back then. The guys kind of knew me by name, and, you know, I'd done a bunch of dark matches and Velocity and Heat and Shotgun Saturday Night, and me and Nova were teaming at the time, and we had a good thing going. I honestly thought, you know, they brought us up a couple times to do matches, and I thought, hey, maybe they might do something with us. And, you know, and I always just got the feedback I got was always, you're doing great, please keep doing what you're doing, you know. Okay. So, you know, having a WWF tryout wasn't much at the time, because it was just like, well, I've had, you know, they've known who I am for a couple of years, so it was I became real comfortable up there, believe it or not. And so it was just like another tryout. You know, it was just another, well, let's see what happens.
TNA had released this video game, if you want to go kind of a bit back. They had this whole suicide character, and they told you to play that suicide character. When they told you to do that, what did you think about that?
Well, the video game was terrible, first of all.
I can agree.
But it was just, you know, at first I was really, really upset. Remember I got the call, and Vince Russo was going, bro, now I know you were heavily involved with the video game. And I'm going, no, Vince, I wasn't, as a matter of fact. He goes, oh, like he had no clue. He's like, we got this character, his name is Suicide. And he starts pitching it to me, and I was furious at the time. And I remember after I can do a good Vince Russo. And I remember going up and at a pay-per-view and asking Jeff and asking Dixie and asking Vince and going like, what? You know, why me? And I like, they were explaining, this is what we want a video game come to life. And I'm like, that's not me. If you want that style, I can name you 1,000 guys. And I pitched, Pac at the time, who's now Neville. I pitched Sanjay. I pitched TJ Perkins. And they're like, no, we need someone we could trust, which I thought was BS. But, you know, I was really upset. But after a while, I was just like, all right, you know what? I'm going to take this as a challenge and I'm going to embrace it. And, I did. And I thought I did a good job with it.
Thoughts on Bad Influence? How did that all come about with you and Christopher Daniels?
Towards the end of 2011, Fortune had basically broken up. They had positioned Bobby Roode to be the top heel in the company, spot he had earned because he's great. And they were doing something with him and James. Chris and AJ had just kind of finished a little bit of a feud, and Chris wasn't doing anything. I wasn't doing anything. And so we pitched that we become a tag team because we'd been best friends for years before that, known each other for a long time, and we knew it would work. And so, they kind of let us, they were like, okay, maybe, we'll see. And they kind of positioned it to where it happened, and it was instant chemistry like we knew it would be, and I think it blew up bigger than they ever thought it would, and, we became one of the best tag teams in the history of the company.
So you look at your career now, are you enjoying it nowadays?
Absolutely, man. This is honestly to God since last June. This is the first time I've been truly independent, God, for, it was 11 years. I'd been under a contract in one way, shape, or form since 2003. So it feels good to be independent. I really like that. I really like not necessarily having to answer to anybody. And, our schedule is still really full, and we're still doing a lot of overseas dates and, Ring of Honor, which is having the time of my life there because they got such an incredible roster and they treat us so good. And, coming back up here to Canada and just, having the freedom to do that and getting to wrestle guys that I, had only seen and heard about and not had the chance to get in there and mix it up with has just been awesome. I've had arguably some of my better matches, certainly some of our best tag matches in the last 8 months or so since we left TNA.
So is there anything else you want to say, or?
Hey man, just wrestling's in my blood. It's who I am. It's what I do. I love doing it. I love coming up here and working with guys I've never worked with, wrestling guys I haven't wrestled, talking to younger guys. It's I'm very humbled and honored when guys come up and ask me for advice, and I'm happy to give it. It's paying it forward because somebody gave it to me. Getting to work with my best friend Christopher Daniels and AJ Styles, who are my two best friends in the world, and getting to still travel with them a lot. And I'm having the time of my life, man. So just thank you for your support, and thanks for supporting indie wrestling and Ring of Honor and all the stuff that we do.
Thank you so much.
Yep.
That concludes our interview for today. Thank you for listening. Of course, you can keep up with me on Twitter at Jordan J. Garber. You've been listening to Jordan Garber's World on the Angry Marks Podcast Network.